Okay, this is the second part of the sourdough series that I'm going to try and do as a celiac. So last night my husband ground me my flour. We have one of those wheat grinders that you can hook up to a bike, and it does such a good job. Some of the little wheat grinders, you're working at it for an hour and you get 1 cup of flour. With this one, I have to do 3 or 4 passes to get it fine enough, but my husband can do it in 2 if I'm sitting on the table to stabilize it. So he's kind of figuring that part out. I have my husband grind it. If I use an electric wheat grinder, it's too much flour in the air. And I did really well this time with the start. So I got the sourdough out of the fridge 2 days ago, and I fed it really good for 2 days, and so that I had 1 cup of start last night. So last night I took my 1 cup of start and I put it in my flour and water. So this is the recipe. I don't know if you can see it. Darn it, I don't think you can. Let's see. Okay, so night before, 1 cup of starter, 4 cups of flour, 2 cups room temperature of water, and you stir that together and you let it sit for 12 hours. So what I did is I didn't even touch the flour. I took my my rubber spatula, and that's how I worked the starter and the water and the flour together, is with the spatula, after my husband did the grinding. And it worked really, really well. I didn't have flour in the air. I didn't have to touch it. I was not kneading it. So the next morning, 12 hours later, so day of baking, add 1/4 cup melted butter, 2 tablespoons sugar, 2 teaspoons salt, 1 cup flour to your sponge mix. So what I do is I take the salt, the sugar, and the butter and cream them a little bit. I mix them together, and I add them to the mix. And then I sprinkle the 1 cup of flour on, and I add that to the mix, and I don't knead it. I again use my rubber spatula and stir it. And also, on top of the sponge, I don't know if you know this, this is a splatter screen. I put it over my bowl, and then I put a wet towel over it. And that way, as my dough rises, my towel doesn't fall down on top of my dough and stick to it. And the reason I get it wet is so that it doesn't get that crust on the top from drying out. So anyway, so it makes a stiff dough. Darn it. So it makes a stiff dough, and then I knead it. Now, I did not knead it. I sat and worked for 10 minutes on it with my rubber spatula. I find that if I add too much flour, it doesn't rise correctly. In order, if I make a stiff dough, and don't have enough water, then the sponge doesn't work right. And that's what I've read in my books on sourdough too, is that if you want a good sourdough bread, it needs to be a wet dough, not a firm dough. So this is just about doubled in size, and it's been just about 2 hours. So then I'm going to, and this bowl was oiled, so I stirred it and rose it the first 12 hours in just in a bowl, but the second time around I did oil the bowl. And so now it's just about at the end of the 2-hour rise. And then I'm going to form it into loaves and rise it 1 more hour. And then I bake at 375 until done. So, why do I smell burning? Just a second.